Blog Talk Radio.
And good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us here tonight on King Jordan Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, the date is May 15th, 2013. And ladies and gentlemen, let's bring back from the 2005 Michael Jackson trial, defense attorney, one of the best criminal defense attorneys in the world, Thomas Mesereau Jr. joins us here on the King Jordan Radio Hotline. Good evening, Tom. How are you? Okay, let's try Tom again. Good evening, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Everything's going okay.
How you been out there in sunny California?
The weather's been hot, but I'm not complaining. We got better weather than a lot of people around the world, so I'm blessed. I'm okay. Thank you.
Yes, I've been terribly upset with the latest allegations, but nonetheless, I wanted to start the show off with a tribute to Michael Jackson, courtesy of the memorial service back in 2009. Let's take a listen to a little of Brook Shields.
Michael was one of a kind. I'm thinking back to when we met and the many times that we spent together. And whenever we were out together and there would be a picture taken, there would be a caption of some kind. And the caption usually said something like an odd couple or an unlikely pair. But to us, it was the most natural and easiest of friendships. I was 13 when we met, and from that day on, our friendship grew. Michael always knew that he could count on me to support him or be his date, and that we would have fun no matter where we were. We had a bond. And maybe it was because we both understood what it was like to be in the spotlight from a very, very young age. I used to tease him and I'd say, I started when I was 11 months old. You're a slacker. You were what, 5? Both of us needed to be adults very early. But when we were together, we were two little kids having fun. We never collaborated together. We never performed together or danced on the same stage. Although he did try in vain one night to unsuccessfully teach me the moonwalk. And he just basically just shook his head and crossed his arms at my attempt. We never filmed a video or recorded a song, but what we did do was laugh. It was always a competition to see who could make the other one laugh more or be sillier. Michael loved to laugh. His heart would just burst out of him when he was laughing. He adored it when I did silly imitations or told him stories about my life. MJ's laugh was the sweetest and purest laugh of anyone's I had ever known. His sense of humor was delightful, and he was very mischievous. I remember it was the night before Elizabeth Taylor's wedding, and he had called me prior and asked if I would join him. He didn't want to be alone for all the festivities. And it was the night before the big day, and Michael and I tried to sneak in to get the first peek of the dress. And we were just giggling like crazy, and we almost passed out in hysterics when we realized that Elizabeth was actually asleep in the bed. We thought she was in an entirely different room. And we had to laugh and sneak out. Then at the point of the wedding, when there was the first dance, basically we had to joke that we were the mother and father of the bride. Yes, it may have seemed very odd to the outside, but we made it fun and we made it real. When he started wearing the glove, I was like, what's up with the glove? I was like, look, if you're going to hold my hand, it better be the non-gloved one, because sequins really hurt me. He would dig in. He'd just shake his head and he would just smile. He loved to be teased. Seeing him smile made you feel like everything was going to be all right. To the outside world, Michael was a genius with unchallenged ability. To the people who were lucky enough to know him personally, he was caring and funny, honest, pure, non-jaded, and he was a lover of life. He cared so deeply for his family and his friends and his fans. He was often referred to as the king, but the Michael that I knew always reminded me more of the Little Prince. Thinking of him now, I'd like to share a passage from the book. What moves me so deeply about this sleeping prince is his loyalty to a flower. The image of a rose shining within him like the flame within a lamp, even when he's asleep. And I realized he was even more fragile than I had thought. Lamps must be protected. A gust of wind can blow them out. Michael's sensitivity was even more extraordinary than his talent, and his true truth resided in his heart. As the Little Prince also said, eyes are blind. You have to look with the heart. What's most important is invisible. Michael saw everything with his heart. To his family, his brothers and sisters, Catherine, Joe, and to his children, Prince, Paris, Blanket, my prayers are with you. Michael's favorite song was not one of the countless masterpieces that he gave us, but it was a song that Charlie Chaplin wrote for the movie Modern Times. It's called Smile. And there's a line in the song that says, smile though your heart is aching. Today, although our hearts are aching, we need to look up where he is undoubtedly perched in a crescent moon, and we need to smile.
Wow, that almost brings me to tears. Tom, your thoughts on the Brook Shields cut I just played?
Boy, those are golden, sincere, special, historic words about a wonderful, kind, decent, gentle person who just so happened to be the greatest artist in history.
Right.
She practically moved me to tears. I haven't heard those words, since they were spoken, and boy, this was a golden, magical moment for all of us. As Brooke said, such kind, truthful, sensitive things about Michael Jackson.
And the things that she was saying, as you knew him, his smile and things like that, did you see that side of him as well?
You know, I did. I didn't see the smiling as much because of the very difficult position that he was in when I was close to him. But I still did see him smile. I remember meeting with he and Randy at a secret location to discuss, business matters and legal matters. And I remember all the giggling and the smiling and the joking around that went on with the three of us one time. I've actually forgotten about that till I heard Brook's magical words. But he loved to smile. He loved to joke around. He loved kids. He loved people. He loved nature. He loved animals. And, the way he's being attacked today, again. It's a long line of people who have tried to take advantage of him every way they can, and particularly his pocketbook. And I've said repeatedly in recent years that he's being exploited in death just as he was in life.
Totally. And let's bring the fans up to date if they don't know what you're talking about. Choreographer Wade Robson, 30 years old now, is coming out 4 years after the death to allege that Michael Jackson did molest him at the time of 1989 and 1990. Very interesting, Tom, that this is going on at the same time as the AEG trial. I find that very questionable. Your thoughts?
Well, so do I. I gave some interviews when the Wade Robson issue came up, and I said I find it very curious and very suspicious that right as a civil trial has begun between Catherine Jackson, Michael's children, and AEG, where AEG's lawyer got up in his opening statement and told the jury it's going to get ugly, meaning we're going to be saying things about Michael that you may not like hearing, and, being particularly conscious of the fact that I'm on the witness list because Catherine and the children's lawyers asked the judge to prevent the defense from bringing in evidence that he was accused of molestation, and the judge denied the motion and is allowing the defense to bring that evidence in because the defense claims that accusations of molestation diminish the value of his reputation in the business world. Because of that ruling, I've been put on the witness list to come in and talk about the fact that I was his lead criminal defense counsel, that we went to trial, what happened in the courtroom, the fact that he was totally exonerated, 14 not guilties, 10 felonies, 4 misdemeanors, and the fact that after the trial, everywhere I went in America, I received a very warm, friendly reception. People of all races and ages, all localities, wanted me to shake my hand. And the fact that Wade Robson would come out and change his story completely in the middle of this trial when the defense has said they're going to raise this issue, I find very curious. I don't have any evidence that AEG contacted him or his attorney or that there's any business relationship between them. I have no evidence of that whatsoever. But like you, I find it very curious.
In fact, let me play a clip back in 2009. Just a couple years back, Wade Robson mentioning Michael Jackson. Let's listen.
Hey ET, I'm Wade Robson. You're getting a sneak preview of our West Side Story inspired VMA promo spots. That's the great opportunity about MTV is the audience. And obviously, there's so many connections with West Side Story and with Michael Jackson. I mean, Michael Jackson, one of his biggest inspirations was West Side Story. If you look at the Beat It video, you look at the Bad video, you look at the way you make me feel, there's so much that inspired him for those pieces. And then there's obviously such a huge connection between Michael Jackson and MTV and really starting this real music video generation on MTV. I mean, Michael was really the king of that. So I like all of those connections, and obviously my connection with Michael and all of that coming together is kind of just one of those serendipitous things where all the elements have come together. So I'm excited for a lot of reasons to be a part of it. In general, with Michael, just had a wonderful relationship. I learned so much from him as an artist and as a kind human being. And it's my goal to try and just continue as much as I can in my own little world, that legacy. I'm not sure about being a part of the tribute. I've heard about it, and I'm excited about it either way, whether I'm involved in it or not. it's because of Michael's connection to MTV, to all that he's done for the world of dance, pop music and pop dance. There's no way that you couldn't pay tribute to that in the place that it began, MTV. We talk so much about him as the pop legend, which is important, but it's nice to really remember that he was a man, that he was a father, and that's what it's really about, is a father and his children, and he's a wonderful dad, and at least they had the time with him that they did. So.
Tom, your thoughts on the 2009 interview you just heard, and compare that to what's going on now?
Well, the words you just played to me reflect a very intelligent, very talented, very creative, very articulate individual, and they sound like the individual that I put on the witness stand in 2005. I met with he and his mother and his sister before he testified. Yeah, before he testified. Yes,
did you meet with him personally?
Well, yes, I had to, because we were calling them to the witness stand. I called all three. And
as a defense lawyer, did you sense that when he looked you in the eye, he was telling the truth?
Absolutely. In fact, the three of them were adamant that Michael had never done anything improper, that Michael had never, sexually abused Wade or touched him inappropriately or taken advantage of any of them. All they did was sing Michael's praises as an artist and as a friend, as a parent, as a humanitarian. They knew him for years. He had always helped them out whenever they needed, any type of assistance. And they did nothing but sing his praises. And Wade was absolutely adamant that he had never been abused or improperly touched or molested by Michael Jackson. And let me say something else. In a criminal case, when the prosecution rests their case,
right,
the defense has to decide whether or not to put on a defense case. And, very often the defense does not put on a case, because when you call witnesses, crazy things can happen. They don't just say what you think they're going to say. They get cross-examined. They get grilled. And sometimes they get rattled. It's a very stressful, tense, arena, the courtroom in a criminal case. And we had had so many good days cross-examining the prosecution's witnesses that I thought we'd really hammered their case really, really severely. And I had to think, do we rest or do we put on a case? And I said to myself, I'm convinced that they can't get 12 jurors to convict them, but I don't know if we have 12 jurors to acquit. And I decided that we had to not only just batter their witnesses under cross-examination, we had to tell our story. So when you decide to put on a defense case, you always want to start strong. You want to start strong, you want to end strong. And I chose him as my first witness because he was so strongly in support of Michael Jackson, and he was so intelligent and articulate and very likable and very, very strong in his beliefs that nothing wrong ever happened. And he was subjected to a very powerful, skilled, tricky cross-examination by Prosecutor Ron Zonin of the Santa Barbara County District Attorney's Office. And Zonin...
How long is Ron Zonin doing this? Would you say it's fair to say over 30 years?
Yes, and Ron Zonin is I think he may be the best prosecutor I've ever faced. He's passionate, he's skilled, he's powerful, he's determined, he's prepared.
You think as good as Juan Martinez in that category, in that...
I see Ron Zonin as far more skillful than Juan Martinez.
Wow. Wow, okay, so that's tough grilling then, you're saying?
Well, I mean, Ron Zonin really went after Wade Robson. This was our first witness. He contradicted, their case where they were trying to, prove that Wade was molested. And for us to start by putting on one of the so-called victims of molestation and have him look at the jury and say, guy never touched me at all. This is ridiculous. He used the words ridiculous. So Zonin really attacked him, and he never wavered. He never faltered. He was always as strong as he had been throughout his direct examination. He said, basically, this man has never molested me, never touched me. And as you see some of his interviews, he even gets aggressive. He says, have you ever slept with a parent? Have you ever slept with a friend? I mean, the idea that he would come out now and say that he had repressed memory, that he was sexually abused, I just find preposterous and shocking, and I don't believe it for a second.
And when you met with Mr. Robson, did he stutter at all? Did he, blink or anything that made you think that he was mistruthful with you?
No, and I also, other people talked to him too before I did. This trial was a very unique type of trial. First of all, you had more media covering the case than, any other case in the history of America. You had more accredited media covering it than O.J. Simpson and Scott Peterson combined. And the only reason I mention that is the media had such an investment in seeing him convicted because it was going to create, one of the biggest continuing stories on the world stage, how this superstar rose so high and ended up in prison. That was the story they were hoping would be completed. And nasty stuff was going on, and I had trouble trusting anybody, even a lot of people around me. The only one I trusted 100% was Susan Yu, my law firm partner. I had other people who were working with us, but she's the only one I really trusted with my innermost strategies and thoughts. And I always was wary that people were trying to undermine me, including other lawyers who were jealous, lawyers who wanted to replace me. And I was particularly wary of witnesses, that witnesses would meet with me and then possibly run to the media to sell a story and try and make up something I had said to them. It was a snake pit that I lived in up there for 6 months. And so I didn't, meet with every single witness for long periods of time, like many people may have thought. I had other people talk to them and screen them and report to me about what they were saying. I had investigators talk to these people. So, but when I did meet with, this family, they were so supportive of Michael and so adamant that nothing ever happened to Wade. And as you just heard in this interview, this is a very intelligent, very talented, very precise, person. And the idea that he suddenly woke up at this age with repressed memory, I just find completely ridiculous. And very disappointing. Because as I said before, Michael keeps getting exploited in death like he was in life. This bitter, evil dance continues, and it's very, very disturbing. Because the person Brook Shields just described is the person we know that really existed, not the kind of monster that people are trying to portray so they can cash in.
Oh, totally agree with you. He was so animate, it wasn't even closed, and the AEG trial, it just sits there, and we've heard stars disconsensus, maybe not like in 2005. I would say it's like 90% don't believe him. Unlike in 2005, this one is the most absurd of them all, I believe.
Well, it's because he's given so many statements, under oath and not under oath. I mean, I was interviewed the week before last by Entertainment Tonight, and before they interviewed me, they wanted to show me their interview with him, where he says, these allegations are ridiculous. And he gets aggressive and says, you ever slept with a parent? You ever slept with a friend? That's all it was. And he couldn't be more determined in his desire to make clear that Michael never molested him. And now to show up with a medical professional saying I suffered from repressed memory, and with the help of a therapist I now remember, I find very, very suspicious.
Yes, in fact, some stars have even said it. Sharon, the wife of Ozzy Osbourne, said it's absurd. They were just, it's just so strange. I mean, why, announce this? Why, is it possible that he could get money from this?
Well, that's the whole point. I mean, there's a claim against the estate. He wants it to be a creditor's claim, and creditors ask for money. My understanding today is that apparently they've also filed documents attempting to possibly pursue a jury trial. That's what someone told me today. They filed a document with the judge in the probate court asking to make a creditor's claim, and I was told they filed a document to possibly pursue a civil lawsuit leading to a trial. I haven't seen any of these documents myself. I've just been told about them.
Right, and this is trying to definitely, Michael he can't defend himself. If this is so really, everybody is questioning this. Even some actors, I mean, it's just so mind-boggling. We don't have answers. Apparently, he's going to be on with Matt Lauer tomorrow, and he'll say what he has to say. But quite frankly, I do not believe this person.
Well, I was interviewed twice by the Today Show for tomorrow's segment, and I guess that's going to be an interview with Wade Robson, and I don't know what he said. I haven't seen the interview yet, nor do I know what
on tomorrow.
I don't know what portions of my interview are going to appear on the show either, but I'm certainly going to be watching it, and I suspect many other people are as well.
Oh, I definitely do. Now, when you come into court, tell the listening audience, it's a court procedure. You have to swear in. What is your duty when you swear in under oath?
Well, I mean, before one can testify, one has to take the oath. And you are, testifying under penalty of perjury. If you were to be proven to have lied about something important, you could actually go to prison. You could be labeled a felon the rest of your life. So it's very, very serious. The oath is taken extremely seriously, and anyone who sits in a witness box in a trial, whether it's criminal or civil, knows they're under oath. They know what the consequences could be if they're caught lying. And Wade, as I said before, is very intelligent, very talented, very articulate, and he knew exactly what he was doing as far as I'm concerned. And I know a lot of people have asked questions about perjury. You have to understand, I don't think he committed perjury. He told the truth in 2005.
Right.
Don't let someone tell you he committed perjury. He didn't. He told the truth as far as I'm concerned. He should not be prosecuted for perjury unless he comes forward now and lies under oath.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And do you think this could actually go to trial?
Well, I would think the lawyers are prepared to do that. I certainly hope it doesn't make it past the smell test with the probate judge, and I hope it doesn't go, too far in civil court. But I don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. I mean, it's an odd claim at an odd time with an odd accusation.
It's very odd from the standpoint that
you got to remember, Jordan, there's a long line of phonies and fakes and charlatans who have made this claim. I don't know if you remember, I think it was 2004, 2005, this guy in New Orleans claimed that Michael Jackson had kidnapped him and physically beat him up and abused him and trip across country. And that was just a totally bogus claim. There have been a lot of bogus claims made through the years against him, including the ones that he was acquitted of in the trial that I conducted on his behalf. So, there's a long litany of fakes and phonies trying to get a paycheck out of Michael Jackson by making false claims of molestation.
Did you see the 1995 hard copy episode where Diane Diamond tracks down a kid in Toronto, and he says he got molested by Michael, and then he got at the end of the trip, he says he was basically forced into it, and he gave it up. He admitted he lied. Did you see that?
I'm aware of a lot of this stuff. I'm also aware of the report that was made that a Japanese man's son had been molested by Michael, and when he was confronted, he was outraged that anybody would say such a thing, said his son had never been touched. I mean, these things have been going on for years.
That's right. The story you're talking about is from Maureen Orth in 1998. She said that he booed a Japanese kid, I believe, and then the kid came forward and said that was absurd, and that never happened.
That's correct. I remember that.
So you look, and this, he came out with this song, "Anything for Money," and boy, is it ever so true. Right?
Well, the district attorney, Tom Snedden, put on witnesses to say Macaulay Culkin was molested. And Macaulay Culkin was my witness who said I never was touched. They put on witnesses to say, what's his name? The feather fellow from Australia. I'm drawing a blank now. Very nice guy. I'm drawing a blank now. They tried to say he was molested. I called him to the stand, and he said, yes, Brett Barnes. I gave up a very, very important job in Australia to come here and set the record straight. He was furious that anybody would say such a thing. So, look, there's a history of this kind of stuff going on. It's a sad, sordid, tragic, disgraceful history, but it's gone on for years, and, as far as I'm concerned, the latest accusation is no different.
And no question. Do you think his mom is influencing him? Do you think could that be a possibility?
I have no idea. The lawyers could have influenced him. The physician could have influenced him. Therapists could have influenced him. I have no idea. I don't know the facts. I haven't read the documents he's filed. I haven't talked to him. I'm just very, very disturbed that anyone's even attempting this kind of nonsense.
Tell us about some trained lawyers if they, let's just say he went with this idea and said, maybe I'll say it, maybe I'll talk to an attorney, and he said it to himself, if it works, it doesn't work, I'll just throw it out to a skilled attorney. Tell me is it possible that the attorney is very skillful enough to convince Wade to do something or, to promote something what he's saying right now?
Well, if someone comes to see an attorney and says, I want to lie and make something up, do you think I have a case?
No, not lie, but
the attorney is not supposed to take that case, but he could have gone to an attorney and said, look, here's my history with Michael Jackson. I've been to a therapist who thinks I suffered from repressed memory, and here's what I'm remembering now that I've been to this therapist, and do you think I have a case? And the lawyer may have said, I think you have a case. There's a huge estate there, a big pot of gold. This is going to really upset and infuriate a lot of people, and maybe they'll want to pay us and get rid of us. I don't know what the reasoning was. But obviously we found lawyers who are willing to take the case, and they know it could be hard fought if it gets anywhere, if the judge lets it get anywhere, or if they file another suit in civil court, if that goes anywhere, they know they're going to be in a tough fight, so with the estate particularly. So, again, I don't know what went on behind closed doors. We never will know.
No question. And you spoke to the mother. Is that accurate?
I called the mother as a witness. I called the sister as a witness. They were very, very, very nice people. They were very supportive of Michael Jackson and very cooperative. They wanted to help him any way they could, as I recall. And I was very impressed with the three of them at the time. They were such, they were willing to testify and undergo cross-examination and do whatever they felt they had to do to protect Michael, who they felt was completely innocent. I remember talking to them.
Wow. And it's very curious. I keep going back. The AEG trial, then right here and all these years, it didn't come out last year, maybe some could say that would have, there's no reason, but this year to come out is just, with the AEG trial and what they said in their opening statements. I keep going back to that, and in my feelings, I think there's some connection. I have no proof, but I think, in my opinion, there is some connection.
Well, as I said before, I have no proof that there's a connection at all or there's been any contact or communication at all, but it's very, very curious.
No question about it, and it goes on and on and on. Mind if we take a call?
Sure.
Let's go out to Arizona, 602. You're on live with Tom Mesereau.
Hi, Tom. I
Hi.
wanted to know your comments on the fact that the fan community has found several videos of Wade, interviews that he's done after the supposed alleged breakdown, and that there are videos that exist that are on YouTube and other places that Wade is still praising MJ. It doesn't fall in line with the repressed memories that he's now claiming.
Well, no. Again, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, nor am I an expert on repressed memory, though I know something about it. And, my understanding is that someone who has suffered from repressed memory, who then has their memory either refreshed or resurrected, and suddenly remembers abusive, horrific, painful, traumatic, events, is not running around praising their accuser. Or not the accuser, is not praising the accused. Let's put it that way. My understanding is that someone who comes face-to-face with a traumatic event that's been supposedly buried for a long period of time go through a period of trauma themselves and a period of rehabilitation and a period of having to cope with it. They usually often need therapy to try and deal with this so-called repressed traumatic event. So the idea that he would be running around on YouTube praising Michael, if in fact he did so after he supposedly had a breakdown that resulted in these memories being either resurrected or reconstructed or refreshed, doesn't make sense to me.
Do you think those videos would be admissible in a court of law? Because they do exist.
Yes, I think they could easily be admissible in a court of law. They would be certainly relevant. They would provide impeachment evidence. They would be used to contradict. They would be called admissions under the rules of evidence, and I think they would be very, very useful in a court of law for the defense.
Tom, we just want to thank you because you are standing up for Michael when it's most needed, especially now that he's not here to defend himself. So I just want to publicly thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your kind words.
Okay, 205, you're on live with Tom Mesereau. Good evening. Okay.
Hello?
Yes, you're on live with Tom Mesereau. State your name and where you're calling from.
I'm Lucy, and I'm calling from Ohio.
Hi.
And I've got a question. Could this filing get into the AEG trial some way?
My understanding is that the trial judge is not going to allow the defense to relitigate issues of whether or not Michael had molested anyone. What the judge is going to allow in, I'm told, all this, of course, is subject to change depending on how the trial goes and what witnesses say or don't say, but my understanding is the issue of whether or not molestation accusations or molestation charges diminished the dollar value of his reputation is something that's going to be litigated. My understanding is that they're not going to be able to litigate the actual issue of whether or not he molested anyone. So my guess is the answer is no.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
But let me say that I can think of some roundabout ways they might try to get it in. They might put on an expert who's there to give a value to his reputation and project the value out any number of years. They might try and slip this in through the expert. They could ask an expert, what do you base your opinion on? And they may try to do that. I assume the plaintiff's lawyers will be smart enough to be aware of that and do something about it. But again, my understanding is they're not to relitigate issues like we did in the criminal trial. They're not going to be witness saying, I saw him molest or I didn't see him molest. The only question is, what was the value of his reputation, and did molestation accusations diminish that value? That's what I'm told.
Okay. So they could use this possibly as a way to reduce potential damages award.
They might try that, yes. My understanding is that the defense wants to bring in the fact that he was charged because they want their experts to say, we examine all of these factors that were good for his reputation and not good for it, and we put the following dollar amount on it, and we think the fact that he was accused for a number of years of child molestation lowered the dollar value of his reputation. That's my understanding about what may happen in this courtroom.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay. My pleasure. Nice talking to you.
Thanks.
Okay, let's go to 979. You're next with Tom Mesereau. Okay, let's go to New Jersey. 201, you're next with Tom Mesereau.
Okay.
Let's go to New Jersey.
You want me to do it?
201,
It might take my minutes all night. Okay.
Yes.
Really?
Can you please? Okay. We'll get back to that one. Let's try another one. Unidentified number, you're next with Tom Mesereau.
Where do you stand when people are saying that Michael Jackson is still alive? Where do you stand on that?
I firmly believe he's not alive. I believe he passed away. I believe that an autopsy was conducted. L.A. County confirmed that he had passed away, and I think.
Then how do you address these people who are going on saying, like this Pearl Jr. woman, saying that he's still alive and got a whole website saying that, and she's in the courtroom, and how do you address these people? Are they nuts, or what's the story here? What's the real deal?
I know Pearl. She's a friend, and she's a very nice woman, but I told her in no uncertain terms that I don't believe Michael's alive. I believe he passed away, unfortunately, and I think the people who want to say he's alive mean well. They don't want to face the fact that he's gone. And I think their intentions are good, but I think they're just plain wrong.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Tom, I wanted to. There's a lot of people that want to believe or do believe that Michael Jackson's still alive. There's all kinds of websites and clubs. There's Michael Jackson Live. I did have Pearl Jr. here, and in her opinion, she does believe Michael Jackson is still alive. Your thoughts?
I disagree with Pearl, and I respectfully disagree with Pearl and those who think he's alive. I just don't believe it. I think he's unfortunately passed away.
It'd be nice.
Under Conrad Murray's care, and I believe he went to UCLA. He was pronounced dead. An autopsy was conducted by the L.A. County coroner, and they confirmed he had passed away and the cause of death, and I do believe he's buried. But I think the people who want to believe he's alive are well-intentioned. I want to say that, but I respectfully think they're dead wrong. I think Michael has unfortunately left us way too soon.
Okay, let's try New Jersey again. New Jersey, you are next. Okay, let's try New Jersey again. New Jersey. Let's go to Joey Colombo holding. Jolie, you are next with Tom Mesereau. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Jolie, what is your thought?
Hi, Tom. I just want to thank you so much for being such a great supporter of Michael. And I just wanted to ask if you think that this whole thing with Wade and his repressed memory could be an influence. Remember in the 93 trial when they gave Jordan some type of drug to be able to lie or something like that? Do you think that could have a relationship with the whole?
Well, I don't know of any relationship between Wade Robson and the Chandler family. There could be communication, but I don't know of any. But you do certainly raise an interesting parallel because, there was a school of thought then that, his father was a dentist. He brought him to a dentist who, from everything I've read, administered, a drug agent that allows one to basically put memories into someone of things that never really happened or never existed. And there was a school of thought that had been done to Jordan. You've read the books and you've read the articles. As far as repressed memory goes, I guess what you're asking is, could somebody treat someone and convince them that they have repressed certain traumatic events?
Yeah, and that's what I think his psychiatrist is probably doing to him.
Well, again, we just don't know. We're not there. But it will be interesting to find out specific. Why did he go to this psychiatrist? What had happened to cause it? And what did the psychiatrist do to treat him? You know, there are a lot of very respected, highly credentialed psychiatrists and psychologists who think repressed memory is nonsense. You know that.
Yeah.
And it's an easy thing to claim. I mean, you know, what's to stop anybody from saying, you know, I went to a psychiatrist, I went to a psychologist, I went through some therapy, and all of a sudden I realized I had repressed a very abusive, you know, event that happened many years ago by a parent or a friend. What's to stop anybody from coming up with that, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, as Jordan has said, Michael is gone. He can't defend himself. It's an easy accusation to make.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's all for the money.
Absolutely. Thanks. Okay.
Yes. Let's go to Tampa, 813. You're next. You're live with Tom Mesereau. Please state your name. Okay. Let's try 714. You are live with Tom Mesereau. Please state your name.
Hi. Good evening. This is Lauren. I'm calling from California.
Good evening.
Hi, Tom. I have a question. Could you explain, apparently on June 6th, it's supposed to have a chamber conference about the hearing to decide if it's going to be admitted or denied, the probate claim.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's sealed information. So Wade Robson goes on TV. Is he free to speak about the portion of that claim that's sealed? Is he free to speak about whatever he chooses?
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Oh, you're saying, is he free? My understanding is there's no gift order in effect. You know, a judge could order the parties and their attorneys not to speak about the facts, but my understanding is that hasn't happened in this case. I suspect that he'll go into chambers with lawyers for the estate and with lawyers for Mr. Robson, and maybe even Mr. Robson will be in there. I don't know. It may just be with the lawyers. And they'll kick around issues that concern this particular motion. And, you know, the judge may listen to each side and may tell them what he's likely to rule on. They may come into court, the judge may rule, or he may decide, I'm not going to issue a final rule, I'm going to have a hearing where witnesses are called. I just don't know what the judge is going to do. But you're allowed to file documents under seal. You can't just file anything under seal. There's got to be a reason for it. If Wade is running around revealing what's in the sealed documents, that will help support an argument to unseal it, which I suspect you're going to see the media make at some point.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's
no,
about
that
the
was
best
it. Thank you.
I can say.
Thank you, Tom.
Oh. Yes, you were saying the seal. So how does that work again, Tom?
Well, you file documents in an envelope, and you stamp them filed under seal. And then you file a document informing the court that certain materials have been filed under seal for reasons of privacy or for reasons of attorney-client privilege. Or, you know, there's also a privilege between physicians and their patients. People often talk about the attorney-client privilege. They don't realize there's a physician-patient privilege as well. So they probably filed these documents in a manila envelope. They stamped it, filed under seal. They mentioned to the judge that there were, you know, documents that were subject to the privilege or one's right of privacy that were relevant to the motion. And I suspect they'll discuss these documents in chambers so there is no public audience. But I think at some point the media is going to say, unseal this stuff. And as I said, if he's running around, you know, speaking to everybody and giving, you know, private details, he may make it easier for the media to get a hold of those documents.
Yeah, like I said, there's word that he'll be on with Matt Lauer tomorrow on the NBC show. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's go to New York, 646. State your name to Tom Mesereau. You are live. Okay. Let's try Florida again. Tampa, 813. Please state your name. You are live.
Yes, my name is Claudia, calling from Tampa. I again want to echo what was said before about you, Tom. I do appreciate your steadfast support of Michael Jackson as well as the Michael Jackson fan community.
What did you name him?
Excuse me?
What did you name?
Claudia.
Good evening.
My question was, if in the end the claim is thrown out or not found valid or anything like that, can the estate go after him if they want to for defamation of character?
Options in that regard, but it may not be worth the time or expense, because then you have to relitigate all of these things that nobody wants to hear about or think about because they're so you can go after someone for costs if they file a frivolous lawsuit and force you to incur costs. But my sense is that if the estate can get this thrown out early, they'll just move on to more positive things. That would be my guess.
Anything else, ma'am? Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So that's an interesting question. Let's try 504. You are next with Tom Mesereau. Good evening. Okay. Tom, also a lot of other stuff going on in the world of news. First, I want to get your opinion on O.J. Simpson back in court, basically throwing Yale Bill Glinda under the bus, saying he got effective inassistance of counsel. Your thoughts?
Well, the fact that the higher court allowed this hearing suggests that they thought it had some merit.
Right.
These types of actions are a long shot. People who are convicted often, accuse their counsel of being incompetent, and it rarely succeeds. I think the argument he's making that has the most possibility to succeed is this question of whether or not his defense lawyer conveyed a plea bargain offer to him. My understanding is he claims that there was a plea offer of 2 years, and he's saying that his lawyer never properly conveyed that to him or explained it to him. If he were able to prove that, he would have a good chance of getting a new trial. But I think the other arguments about not being able to testify and that kind of thing, I think they're more tactical decisions, which, unfortunately for Mr. Simpson, were not successful.
Absolutely. Let's try this call at 267. You're next. Please state your name.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi.
State your name. You're live with Tom Mesereau.
Yes, my name is Gabrielle. I'm actually calling because I was wondering, I know that, they have libel and slander laws, but those are usually relegated for the living. And I was wondering, anyone basically that was close enough to Michael Jackson to make any sort of allegation against him, it's pretty much now free to do so. I mean, we have a lot of people that were, when he was alive, sort of in his inner circle, that have gone around making the rounds in, television shows or in tabloids, and they're able to do it basically because of the, just being as part of his inner circle. And I was wondering, is there anything going forward, maybe law-wise or otherwise, that could be done to sort of protect Michael Jackson's legacy?
Well, there's very little. However, there is a concept called trade libel, and it has to do with libeling a business. And while I still doubt whether the state would pursue a trade libel claim against someone like Mr. Robson, there is that possibility that if you maliciously and intentionally and falsely libel a business and hurt that business, you could be held accountable. That's about the only thing I can think of at the moment.
I only say that just because of, as we were, I've been listening to the program, and you were saying that, basically because you were Michael Jackson's attorney, you were able, and because you had interviewed Wade and his family, you're able to sort of, you were able to look eye to eye with him and get a sense of the truthfulness of his statements and everything like that. And it just really seems appalling and sort of a mishandling of justice that someone can, after, getting on a stand and witnessing, being a witness for someone during a, criminal trial, then come back later on and say, I had repressed memories or a breakdown or what have you, and then sort of recant their whole statement. And because of who Michael Jackson is, it's given sort of, it's allowed to run with legs, and, the information isn't vetted properly, even in the, even in the media.
Well, we live in a country that prides itself on freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, and there are certainly restrictions. There are the laws of libel and slander, and there are certain restrictions about, what you can say. For example, you can't try to foment violence, for example, without possibly committing a crime. But nevertheless, we do pride ourselves on freedom of speech, and it's very difficult to stop one from expressing their opinion. And, we pride ourselves on differences of opinion and people marshaling different facts to present their side of things. It's a freedom that America holds very precious. But nevertheless, if you maliciously and intentionally and falsely try to state false facts about what someone did or didn't do, and they can prove that you did all the things I just mentioned, they can possibly win, in a libel or slander action. And sometimes celebrities do sue tabloids, claiming they made something up and were malicious and false and knew they were being malicious and false. So there are certain remedies, but they're not easy remedies to pursue. And unfortunately, Michael is not here to defend himself. It's an easy time to attack him. He's been in his grave for 4 years. He's defenseless. He can't do anything other than people like, the fan community and those who believe in him, like myself, just have to be ready to step forward and defend him, because he can't defend himself. He's not here.
I don't know. And I do understand exactly what it is you're saying. I used to study journalism, and I do understand libel laws and slander laws. They are, especially if you're a public person, they are very, very, very difficult to win in a court case. It's very difficult to sort of meet that standard that the claims have to be malicious, that they have to have the intent behind them. So I do understand what you're saying. And it is, although it is very frustrating, and I'm sure for someone like you that actually spent time with Michael Jackson and continue to defend Michael Jackson, I'm sure it's equally as frustrating, like, for you.
Well, I say where there's a lot of money, people are going to say and do things to get their hands on that money. And even though he's passed away, there's a big estate there. And he was constantly subjected to false claims, malicious claims, frivolous claims when he was alive. And you've got a big pot of gold there, after he passed away, that many people are going to want to get their hands on. And they'll say almost anything. And quite honestly, if someone tried to go after, Mr. Robson, he probably would have a pretty good defense. But, my therapist, convinced me that this was true, or I honestly believed it was true after undergoing therapy. And, the idea that he did this intentionally or maliciously may be a difficult thing to prove.
Yeah.
Under the law, as you've just presented it.
Yeah. But it's just, all in all, it's just very unfortunate, both for the work basically that you've done, being his lawyer, for, his exoneration in 2005, and also it's unfortunate because, his children have to deal with this without him here to sort of, vet against all of those things. But I do wanted to say, I don't want to take up too much of your time, I do actually want to thank you for the work that you've done and the work you continue to do.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
Tom, can you remind the many fans that are listening tonight, we spoke about it last week. During the trial, your sister passed away, and Michael bought some roses or something like that, right?
Yeah, he brought it was a bouquet of flowers that was bigger than the door to her home. And she was shocked. She came home from the doctor. She'd had her surgery for a brain tumor, and she saw this huge bouquet of flowers that was bigger than the door. She had no idea where they came from. She'd never met Michael. And there was a little poem from Michael. And I'll never forget the phone call I got from her. It was she didn't have much longer to live. She rested for about 10 days. She'd had a brain tumor removed. Then she had a lung tumor removed and died shortly after that. But it was a precious, special moment that Michael created for me and my sister, and I'll never forget him for doing it.
No question. And, he was facing all this stress, and to take time to do that, I mean, how touching was that for your sister?
That's the kind of person he was. He did it for people all over the world. That's why when these allegations pop up, they're so disturbing.
Yeah, they really are. And like I said last week, even with this new claim, if you look up pedophilia, it's not 1, 2, 3 kids. It's hundreds of victims. It's almost, they compare it to someone who's on crack that they just can't stop. Sandusky, for example, there were hundreds of victims. There were only 10 that could have, I found that could have only testified because of the law, the law. So I did some research, and I would never defend a pedophile. So, and in many cases, there are hundreds, and it's a sickness, and they just can't stop. They can't stop. They can't stop. It's like a drug, an adrenaline. If MJ was doing that, we would see hundreds of kids come forward.
Well, you have thousands and thousands of children visited Neverland through the years. Thousands and thousands of children.
Right.
And in line with what you're saying, a small handful made these crazy allegations. None of them have stood up. None of them have stood scrutiny, legal or otherwise. Unfortunately, he was advised to pay a large settlement, which really did backfire. That was not good advice. It opened Pandora's box, so other people, just looked at this amount of money and said, boy, why work when you can sue Michael Jackson? Let's just make up a claim. And
right.
But, again, thousands. I mean, how many kids visited Neverland through the years? If he had been a serial molester, you can imagine how many claims there would have been.
Right.
Not the way at all.
Right. You see the Boy Scout thing, that controversy. You see the Catholic Church. There are hundreds and hundreds of victims, not 3 or 4, and not wanting money. Mm-hmm. So that flies in the face of Michael Jackson being a pedophile. And as you told me last week, they worked with a special somebody that was involved with pedophilia, and they refused to call him.
The prosecutors were traveling back and forth across the country to Quantico, Virginia, and working with the FBI expert on pedophilia and child molestation.
Right.
And he's a well-known expert, highly respected in his field. I was prepared to cross-examine him if he testified, and they decided not to call him in the criminal trial in 2005.
Wow, that's telling right there. I mean, an expert on pedophilia you would want if you're making these accusations and you're trying to convict somebody, and that the fact that Tom Stead doesn't call him, that says a lot.
I agree with you 100%.
That's crazy. Your trial, was it longer than the Jodi Arias trial in terms of
the Michael Jackson criminal trial was about 5.5 months. It began January 31st. It ended in mid-June. And we were in 5 days a week.
And let me ask you a question about the cameras. Were you in favor of no cameras? Did you ask for that, or that's what the judge ordered? How did that work?
I didn't want cameras. The lawyer I replaced, Garagos, wanted cameras. And the judge had ordered no cameras, and Garagos had filed an appeal.
Really?
to set aside the judge's order, I dismissed Garagos' appeal because I didn't want cameras in the courtroom.
Why would Garagos want cameras in the courtroom?
I think you can guess. But I'll leave that up to you.
I mean, this guy loves television. You know, he's all over the television, Garagos. And, you know, interesting, ineffective of counsel, Scott Peterson. He has a good claim, you think, right?
Based on what information I have, I think I could make a very good claim there. But I don't know all the evidence or the facts, and I wasn't in the courtroom. But I know that a number of things were done that were very disturbing to me.
No question. Is it true that Tom Sneddon traveled to Australia to look for so-called victims?
Yes. My information was that he traveled to Australia and Canada and perhaps other places. I'm not quite sure. But I know Australia and Canada. That was in the mid-'90s. And couldn't find anyone.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, let's try 301. You're next. State your name. You're live with Tom Mesereau. 301.
Hi, my name is Valerie.
Where are you calling from, Valerie?
Maryland.
Good evening.
Hi. I was calling because there was an article that came out on Sunday that there are 2 more accusers waiting to come out, but they're trying to basically wait to see how this all plays out with Wade. And what was interesting is Stacey Brown, the journalist, kind of tipped the fans off that there were more accusers coming. I wanted to know if Mr. Mesereau think there's a conspiracy, maybe from people in the past who were trying out to get Michael to bring forth all these victims now to try to get money out of the estate.
Well, first of all, I have no use or respect for Stacey Brown, okay? So I don't even consider him a journalist. You know, Stacey Brown, based on the information that was given to me throughout the criminal case, Stacey Brown was in touch with the prosecutors and was working with them. That's what I was told. I didn't watch him do it, but that's what I was told. Did he write a
book against Michael Jackson?
He did. He wrote a book that was published towards the end of the trial. But Stacey Brown was a witness for the prosecution, and I remember him on TV saying words to the effect he was shocked that Michael was acquitted. And I will have nothing to do with Stacey Brown. But nevertheless, if 2 people are claiming they're going to wait to see what happens with Wade, that would not surprise me. You know, just like that multi-million-dollar settlement in 1993 opened the floodgates for other lawsuits. You may remember the, you know, employees at Havenhurst filed a suit, and employees at Neverland filed a suit. People started coming out of the woodwork filing suits because they thought it was an easy way to make a lot of money. So I have no doubt that if other people watch Wade Robson pursue this claim, if he's successful and makes a lot of money, I have no doubt other people will step forward and try to do the same thing.
Just jump on that train, right?
Absolutely.
Right, because I'm just, we all believe that Michael is innocent, but I'm just wondering if people keep coming forth over and over again, basically people are going to start believing. Some already do, I know, but what is this going to do to Michael's legacy in the future? And he doesn't deserve this at all.
I absolutely agree with you, but as I said before, he's being manipulated and attacked and exploited in death the way he was in life. It's still going on.
Right. Well, I just want to say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
His poor children have to deal with this, too.
That's very sad. Very sad.
Yeah. And I also want to say thank you so much for all you've done for Michael, and you like our champion, because, like, Michael is gone and he doesn't have a voice. So, like you said, it's up to us as fans and you to keep pushing out how good he was and the things that he did to better this world. And I thank you so very, very much.
Well, thank you for your kind comments, and you also should be commended for speaking out on behalf of a wonderful person, a brilliant artist, and a great humanitarian.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Night.
Yeah, it's totally, no, that's a very interesting point, and I have no use for Stacey Brown either. That person, said he had claims that he knew the Jackson family, this and that. and he was very pro-prosecution. And I just got a funny feeling about him, Tom, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know.
Yeah. I want to bring you to the Jodi Arias trial, which has captured the nation, if you will. The jury found her liable that she, in the cruelty phase. Now next is the death penalty phase. Your thoughts on the whole trial, the defense, the prosecution? Give me a summary of that from your standpoint.
Well, I mean, it's a very tough case to defend.
Very.
A very horrific crime. I mean, this young man in the prime of his life was in a shower, you know, defenseless, and stabbed, I guess it was 29 times, and then had his throat slit from ear to ear, was shot in the head. I mean, it's a horrible crime and a very difficult case to defend. I think his defense lawyers, given what they have to deal with, have actually done a very, very good job. I mean, I think they learned who their client was. They put her on the stand, hoping to humanize her as best they could, hoping that the jury would see that she had an abusive upbringing and a lot of problems. And they're hoping that, you know, they just can beat the death penalty. That's what their job has been from day one. I don't think anyone expected her to be acquitted. They were hoping maybe it'd be a lesser offense like second degree or manslaughter, but it's such a horrendous crime, you know, and so brutal in the way it was conducted, so heartless. I think they've done a good job with what they have to deal with. I mean, this case was so much harder than Scott Peterson. You know, Scott Peterson, you couldn't prove the cause of death, the time of death, or the place of death. In Jodi Arias, you can prove the place of death, the time of death, and the cause of death, as I said before, is just brutal. But I think they've really, really gone at it very professionally, and it's a tough case to defend, and we'll see what happens. I think their goal is to make sure that you don't get 12 people who send her to death row. We'll see what happens. Their client can't be easy to deal with giving these interviews. That's just, that's a no-no as far as I'm concerned.
I want to get your opinion as a lawyer. The jurors are allowed to ask questions. It's something I've never seen in a courtroom. Your thoughts on that?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
The jurors are allowed to ask questions to the witnesses, something that I've never seen before in any trial. I'd like to know your opinion on it.
Well, I have actually had a trial where that happened. I had one in the state of Alabama, a capital murder case, where the jurors were allowed to ask questions. And I think it's a good idea, to tell you the truth.
Really?
You know, jurors are going to decide the case, not the lawyers. And I think that it probably helps jurors participate, helps them stay involved, and frankly, it gives the lawyers a good indication where some of the jurors may be coming from. Because, you know, usually you sit there and they never say a word. You don't know any of them. You know a little bit about their background. I actually think it's a good idea.
Tom, can you share with us one of your favorite moments in being in law? Obviously, Michael Jackson is probably one of the biggest, but maybe somebody on the lower, you know, maybe couldn't afford great counsel, something like that, and maybe you got them lesser charges or something to that effect. Is there anything that brings to your heart some story like that?
Well, there are many cases that do, but I went to Birmingham, Alabama many years ago, pro bono for no fee, and defended a homeless black man charged with killing a beautiful white girl in a very trendy part of town.
Wow.
And every time there was a court proceeding, you know, you look at the newspapers, they show a black face and a white face, and there was a lot of racial tension around the case. Two white lawyers had been appointed by the court to defend our client, and they were getting death threats on their office machines. They asked me if I would help. I said, let me come down and meet you guys and meet the client. Let's talk about it. And after we did, I agreed to help defend, and we acquitted them. And there was a lot of tension in the courtroom, a lot of tension outside the courtroom. My friend Charlie got more death threats after it, and That's a case that I hold very close to my heart because this man had no money at all. There was a tremendous movement to convict because the killing had occurred in a trendy part of town with a lot of businesses, and the business owners wanted this thing solved. And I think the police moved way too quickly and just tried to pin it on this guy, and we acquitted him. And I think it's one of many moments in my career that I hold very special. Remember, it's easy to ask a lawyer, what's your biggest case? What's your most important case? But to the client, their case is the most important one you've ever had. It's their life at stake,
Yeah, absolutely. Let's try another caller. 515, you're next. Please state your name. You're live.
Hello?
Yes, please state your name and where you're calling from. You're live with Tom Mesereau.
It's Eileen.
Hi, Eileen.
Hi. My question is this. If the estate is successful in shutting down Wade Robson, will future claims also set precedent by the decision once the estate shuts down the Robson case?
I'm sorry, it might be something with my phone. Your words were a little bit blurry. I apologize. Could you just repeat that again?
If the estate is successful in shutting down Wade Robson, will that set precedent for future claims?
Well, I think it'll certainly set precedent for claims like this. I mean, I think anyone who's trying to claim repressed memory after all these years will have to think twice about whether a late claim is likely to be successful. So I think the answer would be yes. As I said before, I think if his claim is successful, I think you're going to see a lot of charlatans pop up saying, I was abused when I was at Neverland. I had repressed memory. They'll show up with their therapists and their lawyers. So the opposite could have an effect as well. I think that if it's thrown out of court and deemed frivolous, I think it will discourage claims like that, yeah.
Okay. Well, just because I'm concerned because, I don't want the estate wasting time on claim after claim after claim when there's more important things to do concerning the estate. So that was just not an important question, but just a question I had. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Mesereau.
Well, nice talking to you. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Yeah, very interesting question. If they do get this case resolved in terms of not getting him any money or anything like that, maybe what one of the callers pointed out, these other so-called accusers won't come forward. You agree?
Well, I think that it would definitely, they'd have to think twice, and lawyers would have to think twice before they took a case like that.
No question. Let's try, let's go here. You're live. Okay. Next month, Tom, as you know, we brought up last week, is George Zimmerman versus Florida. You have your feelings on this. It's June 10th, opening statements, I believe, or the jury selection. And what is your feeling on this case?
I'm very offended by the case. I think Trevon was minding his own business, walking through a neighborhood where he belonged, and I think he was racially profiled by a wannabe cop, a vigilante, a guy who just decided he was going to be bigger than the law, and I'm for the prosecution in this one.
Oh, no question. And you can't go around with guns and try to be a cop. That's it. That's what cops are for, not what he was doing, right?
Yes, that's my based on everything I know. That's what I believe happened, and I think it's an absolute tragedy, and it could have been avoided if he listened to what he was told on the phone and backed off and went another direction. I think Trevon would be alive.
Okay, 218, you are next. Please state your name. You're live with Tom Mesereau.
Hi, my name is Lynette. I have a couple of questions this afternoon. One of the tabloid websites, TMZ, had a report that Wade's lawyers say that they don't need the estate, that they can file a claim. I understand that that's probably true. They don't need to just file a creditor's claim. Is it true?
My understanding is that they have filed a civil lawsuit. That's what I was told today. I haven't seen any papers to that effect. But that's what I was told, and I suspect they'll try to claim that because of repressed memory, the statute of limitations, which governs how much time you have to file a case, was not triggered. So I would not be surprised if they do something like that. It could very well be true.
Okay, I am a psychiatric nurse, so I know a little bit about repressed memory. Some of the things that we've been seeing from Wade, and actually Wade's life itself doesn't really speak well for the repressed memory. Usually people who repress their memories of abuse have long-term psychological problems, the access to personality problems, things like that. So it'll be important to actually watch Wade tomorrow to see how he handles himself, what he looks like, if he becomes angry, upset, that kind of thing. And there really isn't any such thing as a nervous breakdown. It's a layman's term. So how he got to the doctor is questionable as well, just simply because he chose a child psychiatrist. And from my understanding, one that lived or lives a great distance from him. So some of the things are suspect there as well. Is his claim that he was molested for 7 years, to your understanding?
That is the claim, yes.
You know, I don't know the exact years. I have not read any of the documents that were filed. And my understanding is that the most detailed documents were filed under seal. And I haven't read any of them, so I don't know exactly what years he's claiming he was molested, and for which he forgot until his repressed memory was tapped into. I just don't know what the time period is.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, the estate lawyer, Howard Weitzman, he pointed out that Wade was actually under oath twice. Once in 2005 was he questioned for the Chandler lawsuit under oath?
For
that criminal investigation?
Well, yes, he did say that twice he had testified under oath. One, of course, was my trial. I'm trying to remember now if he went to there were two grand juries in the 92-93 period. There was one in Santa Barbara, and there was one in Los Angeles. And apparently, I think in excess of 200 witnesses were called to these grand juries, none of which resulted in an indictment or charge. And I'm just, it's been a while now. I'm trying to remember if he testified before one of those grand juries or if he did have his deposition taken. I'm just not sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for everything you did for Michael in 2005 and that you continue to do today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your very valuable information. You've helped educate all of us on this particular issue. We appreciate the call very much.
Well, there's no empirical evidence that points to a repressed memory. It's just sort of something that a few sensationalized cases brought about. Is actually what it is.
Ma'am, are you saying you work in this field of repressed memory? You know of this?
I'm a psychiatric nurse.
So, and in your opinion, What do you think of these allegations?
I think it's going to depend entirely upon how that therapist got them to come out. If his claim is that he was feeling them prior to going, if they had been triggered unconsciously, that might be different. But if they came out in therapy, they're always suspect.
So
even though,
therapist, that's suspect.
Even though, well, yeah, because of in talk therapy, which is what I'm assuming we're talking about, psychotherapy. Repressed memory is actually the Freudian foundation of psychotherapy. That's what Freud went after. You're forgetting this, and this is why you're like this. And so it's kind of hard to describe. There are such a thing, nobody can remember everything. What we tend to remember are the significant events in our life, even traumatic ones. And it's, repressed memory versus post-traumatic stress disorder. Why would his memory be repressed? The thing is, if he had been repressing his memory, he still would not have, how can you explain it? He still would not have felt the way he felt about Michael Jackson. You still know that there's something wrong. And it causes you to feel a certain way, no matter what. Even if you don't remember. It's like the feeling of deja vu. You don't know why you feel like you've been there before, but you do. And that's because your memory is actually tied into all 5 of your senses, not just one. It's not something you see. It's not something you feel, smell, sounds around you. That's going to trigger a memory. And from the sounds of it, he was anxious, and then he went to see the doctor about why he was anxious.
Very fishy indeed. We thank you for your call.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Well, Tom, I want to thank you for staying on extra long. The Michael Jackson fans of the world, thank you so much for joining us again here on King Jordan Radio. And it's been a pleasure to have you back.
Well, thank you, Jordan. It's been an honor to be here, and we're dealing with a very important subject, and I'm sure we'll be talking again in the future.
Oh, no question about it. And you have a prediction for the OJ? Do you think he'll get a new trial?
I really don't. I think he has a real issue, as I said before, about whether or not a plea bargain offer was properly conveyed. But I think it's a real long shot.
It really is. Tom Mesereau, thank you very much for coming on King Jordan Radio. We appreciate it so much, and I look forward to talking to you in the future, Tom. Thank you again.
Thanks again. Bye.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen.